You know that feeling, right? The little pocket pat down, your heart kind of sinks, you start looking everywhere,
Yeah.
losing your keys, your wallet, maybe that bag, you just put down. It's just, ugh, so annoying.
Oh, absolutely. It happens to everyone. And that's exactly the problem these possession trackers, these little gadgets, were made to solve. They use tech, we know, like Bluetooth. But the big thing now is how they connect to these huge global networks.
Right, to find stuff even if it's like miles away.
Exactly. And yeah, companies like Tile, Chipolo, they were doing this for a while, but then Apple comes along with the AirTag in 2021.
Suddenly everyone was talking about them. It wasn't just a niche gadget anymore.
Right. It blew the category wide open, but maybe it also made it seem like the AirTag was the only game in town, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But looking at the sources you pulled together, reviews, comparisons, some pretty recent ones up to April 2025, it's clear there are other players. And one that keeps coming up head-to-head with AirTag is the Chipolo One Spot.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to do in this deep dive. We'll dig into these sources, see what they say, comparing the Apple AirTag and the Chipolo One Spot. What's the same? What's really different? And hopefully help you figure out which one might actually work better for keeping track of your stuff.
Sounds good. Let's get into it. And I think the place we absolutely have to start is the thing they both rely on. Apple's Find My network.
Okay, so this is the underlying tech for both.
Yeah, it's the foundation. It's how both of them connect to your iPhone, your iPad. It's the core system.
So how does that actually work if, say, I lose my keys at the park?
Well, okay, two parts. If you're nearby, like in your house, they both use Bluetooth to talk directly to your phone. Simple enough. But the real power for something actually lost, like your park keys, is that Find My network. If your tracker is out of your phone's Bluetooth range, basically any other iPhone, iPad, or Mac that passes nearby can anonymously detect its signal.
Just any random person's iPhone.
Yep.
Completely anonymous, totally secure in the background. Their device just picks up the ping and securely relays the location back through the Find My app, only to you, the owner.
Wow. And the scale of that network is, well, it's huge, isn't it? I saw one source just say countless millions. Kind of vague, but...
Right. But McRumors actually put a number on it, potentially over 1.65 billion
Wow.
active Apple devices. Think about that density, especially in cities or towns. It makes it pretty likely that someone's device will eventually pick up your lost tag signal.
That really is a game changer for finding lost things.
It is, and here's the critical point where all the sources agree. When it comes to using that big network to find something far away, the AirTag and the Chipolo One Spot work in exactly the same way. That's a direct quote from GearBrain.
Okay, so no advantage to either one for that long-distance finding because it's Apple's network doing the work.
Precisely. The system is anonymous. It's the same backend for both. So the core Find My Lost Keys Across Town function, identical. Got it. So if that part's the same, where do they start to differ? It must be in the actual physical things themselves, right? The hardware.
Exactly. That's where the differences really start to show up. I mean, look at them. They're both these small, round discs, kind of coin-shaped.
Yeah, similar form factor.
But the AirTag, it often gets called undeniably the more attractive in reviews. It's got that shiny, polished stainless steel back, feels a bit more premium. The Chipolo One Spot is plastic.
Okay, premium sounds nice, but it's going to be on my keys, maybe bouncing around in a bag. How practical is that shiny finish?
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really interesting. And honestly, where the reviews start questioning Apple's choice. GearBrain puts it bluntly. That stainless steel back attracts scratches at an almost unfathomable rate.
Unfathomable. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Keys scraping against it, thrown in a bag with other stuff. That polished look, gone. Pretty quickly, it seems. They even called it a bizarre choice of material for what it is.
So the Chipolo being plastic might actually be better in the long run.
Well, the sources suggest it appears more hard-wearing. It might not look as fancy right out of the box, maybe, but it probably handles the daily grind of being an item tracker a bit better. Less worrying about scuffs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Scratches aside, though, there was another practical thing that kept coming up in the sources, how you actually attach the tracker.
Oh, this is a major point. Probably the single biggest design difference people point out, and usually in Chipolo's favor, the AirTag. Well, it has no hole.
No hole, just a smooth disc.
Just a smooth little puck. No way to put it on a keyring, loop it onto a bag strap, nothing integrated. If you want to attach it to anything, you absolutely have to buy an accessory.
And those aren't cheap, are they? I saw mentions like Apple's own leather key fob is, what, $35 extra?
Exactly. Gearbrain mentioned that $35 figure. You can find cheaper third-party ones, sure, maybe starting around $5 or $10, $13, but it's still an extra purchase, an extra step, just to use the thing as intended.
Seems odd.
It does. In Chipolo, they just put a hole in it. Simple. Sensibly, as Gearbrain put it, there's an integrated hole right in the one spot.
Ready to go out of the box?
Yep. Cult of Mac rumors, they all highlight this. Clip it on your keys, your backpack, whatever the second you buy it. No extra cost, no hunting for holders. There was even a comment on Apple Insider. Someone was clearly fed up, called the Chipolo's hole an amazing bit of technology that beats Apple like a drum, which, you know, kind of sums up the frustration some people feel about needing that AirTag accessory.
That's pretty funny, but it makes the point. It's a basic practicality thing. Okay, what about water? If I drop my keys in a puddle.
There's a difference there, too, yeah. AirTag has what's called an IP67 rating. That means it's dust tight and can handle being fully submerged in up to a meter of water for about 30 minutes.
Okay, pretty robust.
The Chipolo One Spot is IPX5. The X means it wasn't specifically tested for dust, and the 5 means it's protected against water jets. So like heavy rain, splashes from a sink, that sort of thing, it should be fine. But it's not rated for actual submersion.
So if you're really worried about dropping it in deep water, AirTag has an edge there. But for everyday rain and splashes, probably both are okay.
Seems like it. For most common scenarios, IPX5 is generally sufficient. But yeah, AirTag wins on maximum water protection specs.
All right, let's shift from the physical object to, well, how they work day to day. The software side, the features inside the Find My app, setting them up sounds easy for both.
Yeah, sources say setup is quick, pretty straightforward. Make rumors mention the AirTag might feel a tiny bit quicker. You just hold it near your iPhone. Chipolo, you might have to press a button on it. But honestly, it sounds like a really minor difference.
Okay, not a big deal. But what about finding something nearby, like not lost across town, but just somewhere in the house? You can make them play a sound, right?
Yes, both can play an audible alert. And this is another area where the sources found a really noticeable difference.
Oh, which way?
The Chipolo One Spot is consistently reported as being significantly louder than the AirTag.
Significantly? Like how much louder?
Well, the numbers vary a bit between reviews, which is normal, but the trend is clear. Gearbrain just said somewhat louder.
No.
But Apple Insider, they measured the AirTag around 86 decibels and the Chipolo around 120 decibels.
Oh, 120 dB. That's really loud, isn't it? Like a rock concert or something?
It's up there. Cult of Mac had different numbers, 56 dB for AirTag, 76 dB for Chipolo, but still a big jump for the Chipolo. Whichever numbers you use, the takeaway is the Chipolo makes a lot more noise.
And that actually matters, doesn't it? If it's fallen down the back of the sofa or it's in a coat pocket in the closet.
Exactly. Cult of Mac and McRumors make that exact point. Finding something nearby often means overcoming muffling. A louder sound is just... well, it's much easier to hear when it's buried under cushions or clothes or deep in a messy bag. That seems like a clear win for the Chipolo in those very common, where did I put it, moments.
Makes sense. Okay, what else? Both work with lost mode and Find My?
Yep. You mark it as lost, you can add your phone number or message. If someone else with an Apple device finds your item, they can potentially see that info and contact you.
Is there a difference in how that works?
A slight technical one. The AirTag has an NFC chip built in, so someone could literally just tap their iPhone to the AirTag, and if it's in lost mode, your contact info pops up.
Oh, neat. Like Apple Pay.
Kind of, yeah. The Chipolo doesn't have NFC, so for someone to get the lost mode info from a Chipolo, their phone would need to detect it via the Find My Network's Bluetooth signal first, and then they'd get the notification that way. Slightly different mechanism, same end goal.
Gotcha. Now, the big feature Apple really pushed with AirTag, that precision finding thing, ultra-wideband.
Right, UWB, ultra-wideband. The AirTag has Apple's U1 chip, which enables this precision finding feature. But you need a compatible iPhone, basically iPhone 11 Pro or newer.
And what does it actually do?
When you're close, like really close, within maybe 15, 20 feet, perhaps less, the Find My app switches to this special interface. It shows you an arrow pointing directly towards the AirTag and counts down the distance. like a little digital treasure map.
Okay, sounds kind of cool. Does the Chipolo have that?
No, the Chipolo One Spot does not have UWB or precision finding. It relies purely on the sound alert for close range finding.
So how important is that UWB feature? What did the reviews say? Because this seems like a key difference.
It really is, and the sources are actually kind of split on it. Some, like Gearbrain and Cult of Mac, called it nice, maybe, but also a gimmick.
Gimmick, what?
Their argument is, if you're close enough for UWB to even work, we're talking just a few feet. The sound alert should be loud enough to find it anyway, especially if the sound is quite loud like the Chipolos. So they felt it wasn't a feature most people would use that often.
But not everyone agreed.
No. There was commentary, like in the McRumors comment section, from someone who called the lack of UWB on the Chipolo a deal breaker.
Really? Why was it a deal breaker for them?
They described a situation where an item was really well muffled and the sound alone wasn't quite cutting it. They felt they needed that visual arrow from precision finding to actually zero in on it.
Huh. Okay, so this is definitely a trade-off for you, the listener, to consider. Do you think you'll need that pinpoint visual guidance for tricky situations? Or is a really loud sound likely going to solve 99% of your where-is-it-nearby problems?
Exactly. It depends on what you anticipate needing more, the super loud alert or the visual direction finder for those last few feet. There's no single right answer, it seems.
And just to be clear, the Chipolo we're talking about, the One Spot, it only works with Apple's Find My, right? Like the AirTag.
Correct. The Chipolo One Spot is specifically designed for the Apple Find My ecosystem. That's it. Chipolo does make other models. I think the Amazon source mentioned a Chipolo POP. Those might work with both Apple and Google's Find My device network, and maybe use Chipolo's own app for extra things.
Yeah.
But this comparison, AirTag versus One Spot, both are locked into Apple's Find My app.
Good clarification.
Oh.
One last little feature thing I saw mentioned. Something about the battery display for the Chipolo on Reddit.
Oh, yeah, that thread. Some users reported that the battery percentage shown for the Chipolo One Spot in the Find My app could be, quote, absolutely unreliable. Like, it might show 75% battery, but then the tracker just dies unexpectedly.
Oh, that's a crate.
No. Chipolo did chime in on that thread, saying the Find My app will give you a specific critically low battery warning before it dies. But yeah, the accuracy of the percentage number itself was definitely questioned by some users in that discussion. Something to keep in mind.
Definitely. Okay, let's talk money. Price. How do they stack up?
Pretty closely, at least for a single tracker. An AirTag is $29. A Chipolo One Spot is $28.
So basically the same price for one.
Yeah, Gearbrain called the Chipolo only marginally cheaper up front. The difference gets bigger, though, if you buy them in packs.
The multi-packs. What's the deal there?
A 4-pack of AirTags runs $99, the 4-pack of Chipolo One Spots. Usually cheaper. Gearbrain listed it at $79, while Apple Insider and McRumors had it at $90. So you save a bit buying Chipolos in bulk.
Okay, maybe $10 or $20 saving on a 4-pack.
And this is the big but we keep coming back to.
The accessory cost for the AirTag.
Exactly. Because you have to buy something extra to attach the AirTag, that initial price isn't the final price. Add $5, $10, $35 per tracker just for a holder. The Chipolo, with its built-in hole, it's ready to use immediately.
So the total cost of ownership ends up being lower for Chipolo pretty much always.
That's what the sources conclude. Gearbrain, The Independent, McRumors, they all point out that because the Chipolo saves on the need to buy an accessory, it is always going to represent better value for money, or just plain better value.
Right. Okay, so we've covered the network, the design, the features, the price.
Yeah.
Pulling it all together, what's the overall verdict from these reviews and comparisons?
Well, the first key finding, maybe the most important, is that for the main job, finding something truly lost, far away they're identical. Because they use the same Find My network, Cult of Mac put it plainly, AirTag doesn't have any advantage over One Spot here.
Okay, so level playing field for remote finding, but for everything else.
That's where Chipolo seems to rack up points in these reviews, mostly on practicality. The built-in hole is huge immediate usability, lower total cost. The louder speaker gets praised consistently for finding things nearby, in the real world. And that overall better value proposition comes up again and again. Gearbrain summed it up as just having a more practical design.
So practicality, loudness, value seem to be Chipolo's strengths, according to these sources. What about AirTag's advantages then?
The sources definitely acknowledge them. It does look more premium. initially anyway, before the scratches. It does have that UWB precision finding, even if its usefulness is debated. It does have the slightly better water resistance rating, IP67 versus IPX5, and it does have that NFC chip for potentially easier lost mode context sharing.
So it's not like one is universally the best. It really sounds like the better choice comes down to what you value most.
Exactly. That's the core takeaway. It's subjective. If your priorities are practicality, hearing that loud alert when your keys are under a pile of laundry and getting the most for your money without buying extras, well, the Chipolo One Spot gets strong recommendations from these sources. Gearbrain called it the better option for iOS users. Apple Insider saw it as the only real alternative. And McRumors deemed it a solid option for many users.
But if you really prize that polished metal look, you think you'll genuinely use the UWB arrow guidance frequently. Maybe you are worried about dropping keys in deep water, and you just don't mind paying extra for a holder. Then the AirTag obviously has its appeal too.
Right. It's about matching the features to your own needs and habits.
So let's quickly recap those main trade-offs we unpacked from the sources. You've got the Chipolo's built-in keyhole versus needing an accessory for the AirTag, which hits your wallet.
Yep. Then there's the Chipolo's much louder sound versus the AirTag's unique UWB precision finding for close-range searching.
And finally, maybe the AirTag's premium aesthetic and higher water resistance versus the Chipolo's arguably more practical, maybe more durable plastic design.
Those seem to be the key decision points.
So for you, listening right now, the question really becomes, how do you see yourself using one of these? What problem are you really trying to solve most often? Is the frantic, where are my keys in this messy room search, where sheer volume might be the best help?
Or are you picturing needing that super precise, inch-by-inch guidance to find something really hidden away?
Does paying extra for a clip or keyring feel like just part of the deal? Or is it genuinely annoying to you? Think about those practical advantages and which ones would actually make a difference in your daily life when you inevitably misplace something important.
Yeah, consider the real-world use, not just the cool-sounding tech on paper. Which one truly helps you more when you're actually looking for something?
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive, digging through these sources on the Apple AirTag versus the Chipolo One Spot. We hope laying out these comparisons and trade-offs helps clarify things and maybe makes that choice a little easier if you're looking to keep better track of your valuables.
Absolutely. Hopefully this gives you the info you need to pick the right tool for the job.